which large-scale purchases of oil were conducted, hence the term petrodollar. But now it's the idea of the petroyuan that's being introduced, which would of course mark a significant dent in the US dollar's global dominance. Now the move will allow China's trading partners to pay with either gold or to convert the yuan into gold, cutting out the US dollar out of the question altogether. And frankly, it's a logical move for China because they're, of course, the world's largest oil importer. For example, just last year, China spent over 100 billion US dollars on oil. So in theory, if they manage to make those purchases in yuan in the future, that would mean a huge chunk of US change completely off the financial markets. And one can only wonder what sort of effect that will have. And of course, it's a rather ambitious undertaking, and there's some doubts that trading partners will get on board to make that possible. And of course, it goes without saying that after 4 decades of the US dollar priced oil, it's not a change that will happen overnight.
Okay, well, to discuss this a bit further now, we're joined by the host of RT's Kaiser Report, Max Kaiser. Max, good evening. Thanks for coming on. We're hearing there that China looks set then to challenge the petrodollar. Why does Beijing feel the need to do this?
Well, first of all, they're very brave to do this because countries that have tried to exit the oil-dollar matrix have met terrible ends. Of course, Saddam Hussein wanted to trade oil in euros. He was killed. You had Muammar Gaddafi wanted to trade his energy in something other than US dollars. He was killed. So the track record here is pretty dire. So kudos to China for taking this project on. And of course, they are rumored to be the big buyer in the Aramco offering of their state oil facilities coming down the pike. So this makes sense in a geopolitical sense in terms of you've got China and Russia and the Saudis are looking to escape the US dollar hegemony. They're looking to de-dollarize. That's a concept we see all over the world right now as countries want to escape from the U.S. military-industrial complex. These countries around the world are tired of funding America's military adventurism by being a party to the empire of debt, as it's known around the world, the U.S. dollar, and they want to split off. They want their autonomy. China wants autonomy. Russia wants autonomy. Iran wants autonomy. They don't want to be ruled over by the U.S. dollar anymore. So this gives them away this contract, futures contract based in yuan for oil, convertible into gold, means that these countries can finally, and it's been in place since the end of World War II, escape the Bretton Woods US dollar hegemony, empire of date, supremacy, world reserve currency, that is the US dollar, and we're in a new beginning, I think.
Is there anything then that the US can do about this? Because it's not going to be happy that it's going to lose the petrodollar, so how would you expect it to fight back?
Well, exactly right. They will fight back. They will start a war. Maybe they'll start a war between Japan and China. Maybe they'll start a war with North Korea. America will do anything to keep the U.S. dollar as world reserve currency. They will invade a country like Afghanistan. They'll stop at nothing because this is the basis of the U.S. empire. It's not land-based. It's not based on material goods. It's based on rent-seeking. It's based on lending dollars, getting that income, and then when countries can't pay, they dismantle the assets and take them over. We saw it in Latin America, South America. This is how America builds its empire. The countries that are resistant to America's financial cartel are Russia, China, Iran. So now they figured out, you know what, we're going to split off from the dollar, and they can do so with this new contract. And they're embracing cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies in this context is another way to de-dollarize. Get out of the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is being held up narrowly with the Pentagon's various actions around the world and a lot of market machinations from the central banks. But once the cat's out of the bag, look for the dollar to have a very significant crash.
And among the countries you said might actually join China in this were Saudi Arabia. You said that just a couple of minutes ago. I mean, that might surprise a lot of people that they would be willing to go ahead with this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So how could they be able to do this and simply switch out of the US dollar? Do you think it's that simple for them?
Well, it's not going to be simple, but there's definitely a motivation for the Saudis to, they want to float Aramco, for example, because they need the money, because they're deeply in debt, and they're running out of cash, and they wanted to do an IPO of Aramco on either the London or the American exchange, but they were prevented from doing so from the legal actions of the 9/11 survivors, who rightly point to the Saudis as the cause of 9/11, the architects of 9/11, and they were allowed in America for those lawsuits to go forward. That's a pretty recent development. Only in the last year or so, lawsuits against Saudis for terrorism for 9/11 have been allowed to go forward. So now the Saudis are like, okay, if that's the way you feel, America, then we're going to take our business to China, Russia, Iran, So there's a huge split between the Saudi and America right now. The petrodollar, which got started in 1970, 1971, that's coming to an end.